Get comfortable with English in comfort. This is your English listening practice podcast to help you learn and improve naturally.
I feel like nobody really talks about how frustrating it is to memorize English words. You learn one today, forget it tomorrow. And it's like, why can't my brain just keep it?
I know, right? Some people seem to remember words so easily, like it is no big deal. But for others, it's a struggle.
But it's not your fault. Everyone's brain works differently. Maybe you just haven't found the right method for you yet. Oh, for anyone new here, I'm Emily.
And I'm Liam. This is English in Comfort, the place where you learn English while you relax, slowly, clearly, and without stress. No confusing rules, just simple methods that work.
Today, we've collected every trick, exercise, and tool to help you remember words better. Whether you're a beginner or have been learning for years, these tips will help.
So get comfortable, grab your tea, and let's get started.
Okay, let's dive into our first method, learning words in context. Now, if you're new to this, context might sound like a complicated word.
It's not. Learning words in context means never studying them alone. Instead, you learn them inside sentences, conversations, or real-life scenarios.
Think of context as the situation or story around a word. It's like, if I say the word bank, you might picture a riverbank or a place to keep money. But if I say, I need to deposit my paycheck at the bank, suddenly the meaning is crystal clear, right?
Right. Our brains are wired to remember stories and experiences better than random facts. Think about it. Do you remember what you ate for lunch 3 Tuesdays ago? Probably not. But you do remember the time your friend spilled coffee all over their shirt before a big meeting.
Because that's a story. It has feelings, images, maybe even smells. Words work the same way.
Now here's the problem with learning words in isolation. Let's say you memorize bright as shining. But in English, bright can also mean intelligent. She's a bright student, or vivid, bright colors. Without context, you'll miss these nuances, and that's where confusion happens.
This is why translating word for word often fails. For example, in some languages, the word for cold only describes temperature. But in English, cold can mean, it's cold outside, which is about the weather. She gave me a cold stare, which means she was unfriendly. I have a cold, means I am sick. If you learn cold alone, you'll struggle to understand these different uses.
So, how do we fix this? Simple. When you find a new word, write down the whole sentence you found it in. For example, if you hear generous in a podcast like, he's generous with his time, write that down. Don't just write generous means kind.
Make your own sentences. They don't need to be perfect. Even something silly like, my cat is generous with her fur, it's all over my couch, helps your brain connect the word to a memory.
Think of it like this. Learning a word without context is like trying to grow a plant without soil. It might survive for a day or two, but it'll never take root.
Let's move to our second method, writing words in a notebook. This might sound simple, but there's a reason it's so powerful. When you write a word down by hand, you're doing more than just copying letters. You're engaging your brain in a unique way.
Think about how you learned in school. When you wrote notes during a lesson, even if you never read them again, the act of writing helped you remember. Your hand moved, your eyes tracked the pen, and your brain connected the shapes of letters to their meanings.
Writing by hand uses your sense of touch, the pressure of the pen, the texture of the paper. These physical sensations create stronger memories than typing on a screen. Scientists call this haptic memory. Let's say you write the word mountain in your notebook. Your brain links the word to the feeling of your hand forming the letters.
It's why many people remember spelling or math formulas better after writing them repeatedly. The movement of writing becomes a kind of muscle memory. For English words, writing them 5 times might feel tedious, but your brain is building pathways to store that word long term.
That's right. Here's how to do this effectively. When you hear a new word, whether in a podcast, a movie, or a conversation, pause and write it down immediately. Don't just jot the word alone. Include the sentence or phrase you heard it in. For example, frustrated. She felt frustrated when her phone froze again.
Writing the full context does 2 things. 1. It forces you to process the word's meaning and how to use it. 2. It creates a reference you can revisit later. Over time, your notebook becomes a personalized dictionary tailored to your learning journey.
For words with multiple meanings, this is especially important. Take the word light, for example. The room was filled with soft light. The suitcase was surprisingly light. Here it means not heavy. Writing both sentences helps your brain distinguish between light as brightness and light as weight. Also, some learners worry, what if I write it wrong? But mistakes are part of learning. The physical act of rewriting deepens the memory.
Here's how to make this habit stick. Keep a small notebook with you at all times. Dedicate 5 minutes daily to review old entries. And also use symbols or colors to highlight tricky words, like red for verbs, blue for adjectives.
Some might be thinking, why not use a phone app? Studies show handwriting activates parts of your brain that typing doesn't. The slowness of writing gives your mind time to absorb the word's shape, sound, and meaning.
That's right. So stop being lazy. Go get your small notebook and start writing now.
Next, let's talk about reading aloud. This might feel awkward at first, but it's one of the most effective ways to lock words into your memory. When you say a word out loud, you're not just seeing or writing it, you're hearing it, and that changes everything.
Think of your brain as a network of connections. When you read a word silently, you activate the visual part of your brain. But when you read it aloud, you add 2 more layers: the sound of your voice and the physical act of moving your mouth to form the word. This triple reinforcement, seeing, saying, hearing, makes the word harder to forget.
Imagine you wrote the sentence, "She hesitated before answering the question." If you read this silently, you might skim over hesitated. But if you say it aloud, your ears catch the rhythm of the word hesitated, and your mouth feels the syllables. You're now linking the word to a bodily experience.
True. This is why actors memorize lines by rehearsing them out loud. Have you ever seen an actor rehearse silently? Combination of sound and motion creates deeper neural pathways. For language learners, it works the same way. Reading aloud the word and its meaning help your brain stores the word's meaning and pronunciation together.
Here's how to practice this. After writing a new word in your notebook, read the entire sentence aloud 3 times. Focus on clarity, not speed. For example, the children giggled at the silly joke. The children giggled at the silly joke. The children giggled at the silly joke.
Repetition is really important too, by the way. The first time, you might stumble over the word. The third time, it starts to feel natural. This is because your brain is building fluency. If the word has a tricky sound, like the word thorough, exaggerate the mouth movements. Thorough.
Also, to remember English words better, Create a short story using the word and read that aloud. For example, the word volunteer. Last week, I volunteered at a food bank. It was tiring, but I felt proud. By placing the word in a personal or fictional scenario, you give your brain a vivid scene to attach it to.
Pair this with the previous method. Write the word, then read it aloud while looking at your notebook. The visual plus auditory combo is powerful. Over time, you'll notice patterns in how words sound and look.
Let's move to our fourth method. Immersion. Now, you might not know what immersion is, but it simply means surrounding yourself with English as much as possible. Think of it like diving into a pool. Instead of dipping your toes, you're fully in the water.
And no, you don't need to move to the US or London to do this. Immersion can happen anywhere. It's about making English a natural part of your daily life, even if you're at home.
For example, you can switch your phone's language to English. Suddenly, every time you check the weather, open an app, or text a friend, you're reading English words like settings, download, or notification.
Or watch your favorite show in English with subtitles. You'll hear how words are used in real conversations.
To make it fun, you could even create an English-only zone for 30 minutes a day. During this time, only English allowed. You only write, watch, or think in English. No translating.
So, why is immersion important if you want to remember words easily? Why does this work? 3 reasons. 1. Frequency. The more you see and hear a word, the deeper it sticks. If you read schedule on your phone, hear it in a podcast, and use it in a work email, your brain thinks, this word must be important. 2. Context everywhere. Immersion lets you learn words organically, naturally. You'll discover charge means battery power on your phone, payment in a store, and responsibility in a work meeting, for example. 3rd, no translation. When you immerse yourself, you start thinking directly in English. Instead of translating from your language, you'll reach for the English phrase faster.
Doesn't mean you have to complicate things and do everything at once, though. Start small and choose 1 or 2 immersion habits like label objects in your house with sticky notes, mirror, window, fridge. Every time you pass them, say the word aloud. It's simple, but it trains your brain to link the object to the English word, not your native language.
The key is consistency. Even 20 minutes a day of English-only time, like reading news headlines or journaling about your day, builds a habit. Your brain adapts to expect English during those moments, making words retention effortless.
So it's all about exposure. The more you normalize English in your life, the less you'll rely on memorization. Words will simply feel familiar because you've seen them everywhere.
Okay, let's talk about something we've mentioned a few times already, learning through real-life English.
Textbooks are great, but they don't teach you how people actually talk. Like, when was the last time you heard someone say, "Hello, John? The weather is pleasant today," in real life?
Right. Real-life English is messy. People mumble, use slang, and speak fast. But that's exactly why it's so powerful for learning. When you hear words used naturally, you absorb not just their meaning, but their rhythm, their emotion, and their purpose.
This works because your brain starts connecting words to experiences.
And it's not just about fun stuff. News podcasts, documentaries, even YouTube tutorials, they all use English in specialized ways.
Now let's talk about the next method. I mean, there is no better way to learn than to learn through games, right? This method is called Mnemonics. Don't let the word scare you. It's just a fancy way of saying memory tricks.
Think of mnemonics like a shortcut for your brain. You link a new word to something funny, weird, or personal to remember it easily. For example, how do you spell necessary? Is the S first than C? Is it one S or double S? Here is how to practice with mnemonics. 1 coffee, 2 sugars, 1 C, 2 S. See? It's easy now.
It might sound silly, but it's really effective. Your brain remembers weird stuff way better than boring lists.
When you find a tricky word, like dessert versus dessert, find a connection. Dessert has 2 S's because you always want 2 scoops of ice cream. Create a mental image. Imagine a cake in the desert. Crazy, right? But now you'll never mix them up.
You don't need mnemonics for every word, just the ones that trip you up. And if a trick doesn't work, invent a new one.
That's right. Mnemonics is just a fun, quick trick that may work for those who have difficulties with certain words and hate memorizing boring lists.
Now let's tackle the part everyone finds intimidating: actually speaking. A lot of learners says, "I want to speak, but I always forget the words."
Practicing speaking is really important. It's different from reading, because speaking is forcing your brain to talk in English without having anything in front of you to help you. That's why it feels intimidating for learners, especially those who don't have anyone to practice with.
But you don't need a partner to start. You can talk to yourself. It feels strange at first, but it's one of the most effective ways to practice. When you're alone, describe what you're doing in English. I'm making coffee. The water is boiling. I need a mug. Where's my mug? I should wear my blue shirt today. Wait, it's wrinkled. I'll iron it.
Why does this work? It forces you to use words you've learned in real time. No pressure, no mistakes, just you and your thoughts. You'll quickly notice gaps like, how do I say this word? Then you can look it up and add it to your notebook.
Now, if you do have a friend or language partner, that's even better. Talk with them. It doesn't need to be a native speaker. Even 10 minutes a week helps. For example, role-play ordering food. What's today's special? Can I get fries instead of salad? Discuss a simple topic. What's your favorite season? Why?
Speaking activates different parts of your brain than reading or writing. All of these skills are effective in their own ways.
Let's talk about something we're all guilty of: relying on translation apps. You know, when you're in the middle of learning, panic because you forgot that certain word, and type it into Google Translate. It feels helpful, but it's really not helping at all.
Translating doesn't let you think in English. When you constantly translate words to your native language, your brain stays stuck in mode switching, flipping between languages instead of thinking directly in English.
And some words don't even have the exact equivalents.
So what's the fix? Use an English dictionary. Apps like Cambridge Learner's Dictionary or Merriam-Webster give you simple definitions and examples. Let's try frustrated. Definition: feeling upset or annoyed because you can't change or achieve something. Example: she felt frustrated when her phone froze again.
Over time, your brain starts linking English words to concepts, not just translations.
So if you have a translating app in your phone right now, why not remove it and replace it with an English dictionary instead?
Let's talk about the next method: tools that can supercharge your vocabulary, like flashcards. Now, I know what you're thinking. Flashcards? Isn't that old school? But trust me, when used right, they're still one of the best ways to remember words.
Think of flashcards as your personal vocabulary trainers. They're simple. One side has the word, the other has the definition and an example sentence.
Here's why they work. Flashcards use active recall, forcing your brain to retrieve information instead of just recognizing it. And when you shuffle them, you avoid memorizing words in order, which tricks your brain into actually learning.
If you like writing, make your own flashcards. Grab sticky notes or index cards. Write the word on one side and a sentence plus definition on the back. Keep them in your bag and review them during your pause.
Don't overload yourself with too many flashcards, though. Start with 3 words you always forget. Tomorrow, add 3 more. In a month, you'll have 90+ words locked in your memory.
Time for our final method. And honestly, the most fun. Gamify your learning. Turn vocabulary practice into a game, and suddenly it's not studying anymore. It's play.
Think about it. When you're playing a game, you're focused, competitive, and want to keep going. That's really a fun way to learn new words and spelling.
Games work because they lower stress. When you're laughing over a wrong guess or celebrating a high score, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical that enhances memory.
There are many word games you can find on your phone if you just write word games or word puzzle games. Find one you like and just have fun with it while learning.
The key is to make learning feel like a side effect, not the main goal. Whether you're battling with someone or racing against a timer, you're training your brain without the pressure.
And that's it. 10 powerful ways to remember English words, from learning in context to turning it all into a game.
Now we want to hear from you. Which of these methods sounds most effective for your learning style? Let us know in the comments. We read every single one.
And if you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend who's also learning English. Together, you can try these tips and compare progress.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you're new here, so you never miss an episode.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Remember, every small step adds up. You've got this.
Keep learning, keep practicing, and take care, everyone.